Gojo is born without cursed energy, no limitless, no six eyes. The Jujutsu world sees a failure, but what they don't realize is he's even more dangerous. So when Gojo was born, everything should have changed, but it doesn't. The world doesn't shift to match him. There is no balance breaking, no surge of stronger curses. For the first time, the Jujutsu world stays exactly the same. And that's where the problem begins, because even without power, he's still a Gojo. But instead of being seen as a prodigy, he's labeled a failure from the start. The Gojo clan doesn't see potential, they see a mistake. No cursed energy means the limitless is gone, and the Six Eyes never awaken, nothing that made their name feared. And in a family built on power, that makes him worthless. But heavenly restriction doesn't leave him empty. It replaces everything he lost with something far more dangerous. A body pushed to its absolute limit. Speed, precision, instinct, all refined into something lethal. Not a sorcerer, but something closer to a weapon. In this timeline, his parents actually get to raise him, not because the clan accepts him, but because they don't see any value in him at all. Without the Six Eyes, he's not a prodigy. He's just another member of the clan, and that makes things worse. Because Gojo doesn't grow up above them. He grows up inside the system that rejects him, and they treat him exactly how you'd expect. Looked down on and constantly underestimated, just like Maki in the Zenin clan. Not because he's weak, but because he has no cursed energy at all. Even his own family can't protect him from it, forcing Gojo to figure things out on his own. And over time, that starts to change him, because while the clan sees nothing, his body is already becoming something else. Stronger, faster, and more precise than it should be, like it's compensating for everything he lost. The clan's disdain only sharpened him. While others relied on techniques, Gojo trained in secret, turning their mockery into fuel and pushing his body beyond what it should be capable of, not with cursed energy, but through repetition, instinct, and constant physical refinement. And over time, it built something dangerous in him. So by the time he was old enough for Jujutsu High, the clan sent him away, not out of pride, but simply to get rid of the embarrassment, leaving the school to deal with the defect. That's where he meets Geto, and for a while, things almost feel normal, until everything changes during the Star Plasma vessel mission. But when Toji appears, everything shifts. He moves like a ghost. No cursed energy, just overwhelming physical dominance. And the moment Gojo sees him, he understands. The same heavenly restriction, but refined through years of brutal experience. And when Toji starts fighting, there's no technique to read, no cursed energy to track. Just speed, precision, and absolute control over his body. Geto's curses barely slow him down, and Gojo, for the first time in his life, can't keep up. And in that moment, he realizes something unsettling. He's not the exception, he's the unfinished version, and Toji is what he could become. That night, after the mission's chaos, Gojo made his choice. He left Jujutsu High without a word to Geto, packed a single bag, and tracked Toji down through the underworld contacts he'd quietly cultivated, finding him nursing a drink in some back alley bar. "Train me," Gojo said. "No arrogance, no demands, just honesty. I have the same thing you do, but I'm not there yet, so teach me how to use it." Toji laughed at first, calling him a spoiled clan brat who had no idea what he was asking for. But Gojo didn't argue. He proved it in the alley outside. He stepped in and got overwhelmed almost instantly, every movement faster and sharper than anything he'd faced before. He couldn't keep up, but he didn't stop. He kept pushing forward, forcing himself to react and adjust, trying to survive just a little longer, and until his body finally gave out, and only then did Toji drop him. That was enough. Not because Gojo was ready, but because he refused to quit. So Toji took him on, not as a partner, but as something useful. Their partnership rewrote the underground. Together, they took contracts the Jujutsu world avoided, assassinating corrupt higher-ups and dismantling curse user groups that preyed on the weak. No more playing hero for the clans. Gojo became Toji's shadow, but sharper, faster, constantly evolving. But here's where things change. Geto, left behind at Jujutsu High, spiraled differently without Gojo, the one person who understood him. He fell faster, no grand speech, no warning, just quiet, calculated action, building something dangerous in the shadows before anyone realized how far he'd already gone. And eventually, word reached Gojo and Toji mid-job. Geto had turned, and now he was targeting everything, including the system they'd already abandoned. The confrontation was inevitable. Gojo tracks Geto to an abandoned temple, the air thick with cursed energy, something that means nothing to him, but still presses against everything around him. "You left." Geto's voice is tight, caught between anger and exhaustion, and when they fight, Gojo wins. But not cleanly. He pins Geto down, fist raised, and for a moment, the past catches up to them. "Come with us," Gojo says. "Forget the schools, the clans. We make our own rules." Geto laughs, bitter and tired, and refuses. But Gojo doesn't kill him. Instead, Geto escapes, changed, walking his own path from that point on. Not an ally, but not entirely an enemy either, someone whose goals occasionally align with theirs, feeding them intel when it serves his own plans. And from there, things escalate. The next job should have been routine, a hit on the Zenin clan elders. But this time, they're ready. They know exactly what Gojo and Toji are, and they come prepared with everything they have: sorcerers, cursed tools, anything built to take down two heavenly restriction users. And in the middle of that chaos, something changes. For the first time, Gojo feels it, not cursed energy, but something close, as his body reacts and echoes it for a split second, just long enough to turn an attack back on its user. It isn't sorcery, but something new, something he can control. And even Toji notices, smiling for the first time in years. Kid, you just changed the game. From that point on, everything accelerates. They stop surviving and start reshaping the Jujutsu underworld. Geto's intel pulls them deeper until eventually they uncover something buried for decades. Records proving the higher-ups knew about heavenly restriction mutations and suppressed them to protect the sorcery bloodlines. And when Toji sees it, something shifts, because now it's personal. Megumi, his son, hidden away not for protection, but as leverage. So that night, they take him back. Years later, everything converges. Old threats and new ones collide at once, all drawn to a single point. At the center of it, Kenjaku, wearing a different face. He's bound a fragment of Six Eyes power into an ancient artifact, trying to force a new balance into the world and create the chaos Gojo's existence once prevented. The artifact pulses from the top of a ruined Tokyo skyscraper, drawing every major player into the fight. And when it begins, it doesn't take long. Toji falls first, not by mistake, but by choice, taking the blow meant for Megumi with a smirk that says he already knew how this would end. Finish it, kid. And just like that, Gojo is alone, facing Kenjaku and the artifact pulling everything toward collapse. But Gojo doesn't panic. He sees the trap immediately, the fragment trying to rewrite his restriction, flooding his body with something that isn't truly his. So he lets it in, just long enough to turn it back on itself. Amplified, no domain, no infinity, just precision and control. One strike is all it takes. The artifact shatters, and the backlash tears through Kenjaku's body, scattering the stolen power across the skyline. In this timeline, Gojo never became the honored one. He became something else, something sharper, more dangerous, a ghost who walked away from everything and still rewrote the rules. Because in the end, the strongest isn't always the one born with power, but the one who was never meant to have it, and took it anyway. Before we continue, quick shout out to Catgirl for subscribing. If you want to be next, subscribe and comment "I subbed." Let's finish this. The world doesn't stop, it keeps moving forward. Years later, Yuji swallows Sukuna's finger in a desperate attempt to save his friends. And when Gojo shows up, it isn't by chance. Megumi had already been tracking the curse, so Gojo understands what he's dealing with. He wants to test it. Not Yuji, but the thing inside him, so he steps in and challenges it. And even now, Gojo wins. Not cleanly, but decisively. Because even without Limitless, he's adapted. Reading movements, controlling distance, and pulling Sukuna off balance before closing in. When it's over, he sees it clearly. Yuji isn't just a vessel, he's worth keeping alive. So Gojo keeps him alive and sends him to Jujutsu High. Kenjaku sends Jogo, and this time, the fight isn't clean. Without full Limitless or unlimited Void, Gojo can't dominate the way he used to. Flames crash into him as he weaves through the chaos, and for the first time in a long time, Gojo takes real damage. But even then, he still wins the exchange, until Hanami intervenes and pulls Jogo out. After that, things escalate quickly. Yuji dies during the aftermath, making a binding vow with Sukuna and clawing his way back to life. The higher-ups push the Kyoto Goodwill event forward, looking for a chance to erase him. That's where Yuji meets Todo, and somehow, over something as stupid as taste in women, they click instantly, loud and unfiltered. Kenjaku is already moving. He slips into Jujutsu High without needing an elaborate setup, because Gojo isn't the same unstoppable force he used to be. And just like that, Mahito walks out with the Death Womb paintings. Then comes Shibuya, but this time it isn't about Gojo, it's about Yuji. Sukuna is the target, and everything spirals from there. Yuji tears through the Grasshopper Curse, then faces Choso in a brutal close-range fight until something breaks. Not physically, but mentally. Because Choso remembers, Yuji isn't just a vessel, he's his brother. And in that moment, everything stops. At the same time, Gojo faces the nightmare trio, Mahito, Hanami, and Jogo. Without the Six Eyes, there's no endless sustain and no domain to lock them down. He opens strong, slipping past roots and lava, then closes the distance and drives Mahito back. But they adapt fast, their attacks sinking into something relentless that wears him down until Mahito finds the opening. Idle transfiguration brushes his soul, and in a single, quiet moment, Gojo is gone. No grand finish, no final stand. Just a curse ending the white demon with a single touch. Yuji is still catching his breath from Choso when everything falls apart. Jogo finds him first and forces 10 fingers down his throat. Sukuna wakes up laughing, tears Jogo apart and keeps walking. No obsession, no interest in Megumi, because this time, Gojo was never the one who pushed him there. Sukuna doesn't care. Without Gojo, the world tilts further. Geto and Megumi pick up what's left, their circle smaller, but more dangerous. Yuji carries Sukuna and everything that comes with him. The clans fracture, and Kenjaku's plan moves forward with one less obstacle. One thing becomes clear. Strength was never in techniques or in eyes that could see everything. It was in the ones who were told no and chose to fight anyway. The story doesn't end here, it just finds new hands to break the rules. Now, with Gojo gone, the balance is already broken. But this is just one version of the story. Click this video to see what happens when Yuji uses Sukuna's power from the very beginning. Because this time, it doesn't go the way you think.